So ladies and gentlemen, please give a massive round of applause to Ash Ali. Right, thank you for coming down. Right, can you guys hear us?
Yes.
Yeah, don't need the mic? No? Brilliant. Okay, so first of all, quick introduction for those who don't know who you are, or who haven't taken the time to read the program pack. In your own words, can you tell us all about Ash Ali?
So Ash is a failure. That's what my mom and dad said to me when I decided not to go to university. But that quickly changed when I started in the world of the internet back in 1997, when I built my first e-commerce website. And since then, I've gone on to do loads of crazy cool stuff in the internet world. And my notable thing was being the first marketing director of Just Eat, and then writing the book, investing in other startups. And I currently run a software company right now, a B2B SaaS company right now as well.
Amazing, amazing. So let's go back to the earliest. I've heard your story and how you got through, because you didn't go through university, you went through different routes, and I think universities are now starting to open up to the idea that there's more than one track to getting somebody to success. So just tell us, first of all, what was your journey like? How did you land the position that you're in right now? And I'm sure that'll probably give some insights in terms of what was your unfair advantage along the way. So what was the journey like for you?
Yeah, it was, I had a lot of disadvantages. And I used to read a lot of personal development books. And I always used to pick up a book and I used to read it from a professor at an Ivy League school in America. And I go, doesn't make sense to me. Just do it, just do it, just do it. And I'll be like, yeah, but I'm living in the inner city of Birmingham. And I've got no opportunities. I'm not going to university, failed my A-levels. What do I do next? So at that point, I was thinking to myself, there needs to be something that's written for me. But anyhow, what I decided to do was very quickly just get started. Most people wait to get started. But a friend of mine at school had a shoe company, and he was like, why don't we build an e-commerce website selling shoes back in 1997? I was like, okay. So that was the starting point of kind of like learning how to build a website, the background about building websites. And then very quickly I realized that building a website is one thing, but getting website traffic is another thing altogether, right? Because anyone can build a website now. In those days, it was the same thing, but there wasn't no Google then. There was Alta Vista and some old school kind of search engines, right? And so I got very interested in how to build traffic to websites. And I did a lot of work on, my shoe website was outranking all the designer brands and every single shoe brand you can think of, because they were not on the internet as well as I was, right? So I learned a lot about SEO, digital marketing, and then I started working at an agency in London. So we won an award for that e-commerce website. And I was in Birmingham at this time, and I was like, right, let me pack my bags and come to London, and started working at the agency. And I learned a lot about client side, working with building websites, but also generating traffic to websites, accessibility, usability, all the other things that people weren't talking about at that time. It was at the time when you go to a website and you had like a 15-second intro with a logo rotating, Macromedia Flash. Do you remember that? And everyone was doing that, and we used to sit down with clients, and the CEO would go like, yeah, I want this logo to do this. And I used to come into the meeting and go, 15 seconds on a revolving logo? Let's get them straight into the website and let's get going, right? And I was quite direct in my nature. And I didn't really know much about politics or of work or how to manage clients. I was just being myself, straight to the point, and being passionate about what I did, because I really loved what I did. I was really into it. I was really about building something that's useful for people, can make a difference as well. So at that time, I learned a lot about client side at the agency, and then I did a whole bunch of freelance work in e-commerce and building websites for lots of different clients. And then eventually I landed the spot of becoming the marketing director of Just Eat. And at the time, I was the head of new media marketing. It's called new media in those days. It's old media now, right? I was head of new media marketing. I had a team of people, had a nice job, glass office, all the usual things that people think success looks like. But I always wanted to do something. And even when I was working, I always did a lot of side hustles. I did a lot of experimentation. I helped a lot of friends with their websites or their businesses on the side. So it wasn't ever just in the corporate kind of rigmarole. I was always doing something, always working with small businesses, medium businesses, helping them build their presence on the web, understanding them, giving them e-commerce tips, lots of different things. And I had a whole roster of clients, and then became the first marketing director at Just Eat. And then at the time, I picked up my 6-month-old daughter, put her in the air, and I said, this better work, this better IPO. No, I didn't say that. And I put it down, and my wife goes, why not? What have I got to lose? People ask me, how did I make that decision, right? I had a really nice job, startup, equity-based. Why would I go and work for a online takeaway company? Why would I work for that? But at the time, I realized that you got to make decisions which have got high risk and high reward. Otherwise, you're never going to be able to get out of the rut of continuously trying to break out of where you're at already. And so that was my high risk. But it was low risk for me in my mind, because I could always go back and get a job because I had all the digital skills that everyone wanted as employers, right? So I could always go back into work. That was always my, I was 26 years old at the time. I was like, great, I'll just do this and go for it. And then when I was at Just Eat, I raised £10.5 million, did the first TV ad on X Factor, did loads of cool things, built it up, it IPO'd for 1.5 billion, changed everyone's lives. I was an equity holder in the business, and then I invested in other startups and did lots of my own little B2B startups. And then I wrote the book, did a TEDx, went around the world, and here I am now.
Let's give that a massive round of applause. What I love about the journey is sometimes we see, people in tech, and you think, no, you must always just wanted to do tech, or people in this particular industry, but you talked about your friend that owned a shoe business, and you just said, all right, let's give it a go. And you was pretty much in the trenches, just doing things and experimenting and exploring. And you didn't just take the brands that you worked, you took the skills. And I think that's where your strength lies. Your confidence was in the skills that you acquired from every single journey that you've been on in your entrepreneurial every single path, which is I think that's definitely a key takeaway, because even if something fails, what have you learned over the last 6 months, 8 months, whatever it is that you've been working on that thing, that you can then take to be an entrepreneur at another big company, or start your own startup again, or something else? That's definitely very inspiring. So let's go to your time at Just Eat. Now, remember at the time, it probably wasn't as well known as it obviously is now. And I'm very interested to see what was your approach to growing it? What type of things did you do differently to make it stand out? Because I'm sure many people probably had the idea to do online takeaways, but I know there were many companies that failed at it. But Just Eat were one of the first to actually really crack the code and scale and do things at scale. So from the marketing perspective, what were some of the ideas or the tactics that you employed to make sure that happened?
Yeah. Does anyone want to know what one was whiz-bang, technical, super smart idea that we did that generated the most traffic for Just Eat? Do you want to know what that is?
I do.
We put stickers in the takeaway windows. People always ask me, right? In the early days of Just Eat, we never had much money. But what we wanted to do was, how can we become more resourceful? A sticker cost us 35 pence. It cost us half an hour to convince a takeaway owner to put it in the window because, oh no, they don't want it, right? But in the early days of Just Eat, more than 50% of website traffic that we generated actually came from people who saw our brand on a sticker on a window in a takeaway. That was in the early days. You probably go past the high street now and see Just Eat stickers everywhere. That's branding, right? And I know you've done a session on branding earlier today. The consistent branding of people seeing your logo, seeing the name. But in the early days, it was about getting our brand where people were already at, right? You got to remember, this was the time when most people didn't have an iPhone, and they most likely ordered their takeaway on the phone, right? So we were like, the takeaway owners were like, wow, you can order off this website and you can order from us using your credit card, right? Our USP was the fact you can use your credit card. You wouldn't do that over the phone. You'd be scared to give your credit card over the phone. So the USP is very simple. So that's an example of, being resourceful. Like Junior mentioned, I talked a little bit about my disadvantages, and one of my kind of disadvantages when I was growing up is I had no money. I was growing in inner city Birmingham. My dad worked at the factory. My mom was a housewife. I kind of just had to make ends meet and get on with things. But the fact that I had no money actually made me more resourceful and creative, which is why I was perfect for startups, because you got no money, right? So I had to be much more resourceful in everything I did. In fact, at Just Eat, when we did have money, I thought to shit my pants. They're like, Ash, you got £4.5 million now, off you go with the marketing. All those nice ideas you're talking about, do something with it. I was like, oh shit. Right? Because it's quite a flip in my brain to try and flip over from having no money to having money all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Right? So that was quite an interesting flip that I had to deal with. And sometimes when you're building a small business, you might come into some money, and then knowing how to deal with that money to grow your business again requires a mindset change and how you think, because there will be that time, because we're so used to working in SMEs and small companies with lack of money and capital that actually when you do get the capital, what do you then do? And you can get stuck. You can flight or fright, freeze or flight kind of syndrome at that point. Right? At that point, I had some of that, and I didn't know how to deal with it, so I was dealing with that in my mindset.
Because you do see it with so many businesses now who, you get funding, everyone's like, I need money, that's my big disadvantage, we don't have enough money to do this, no money to do that, and you see businesses that get funding, get money, and it just goes down the drain because it's almost like they've got too many options, so they get lazy, they don't do as much due diligence because they can almost afford to fail. And at the end of the day, it is about that efficient mindset, being resourceful, as you mentioned. So, so many people always mention, money is the biggest barrier to their growth. And I guess you're saying sometimes when you have money, you still can't grow because the decision.
You can grow, but you might grow much more inefficiently. That's the difference. You can still grow because you can throw money at stuff. Yeah, the truth is money makes a difference. Let's agree here. Yeah, it's not like, you need money to make things happen. You need money to grow things. At Just Eat, when we raised our £10.5 million, we'd already established product market fit. We already knew this was working. We already had customers. That's the point at which we said, you know what? Let's do the X Factor ad. Right? Let's do a commercial. Let's become a household name. This is what made Just Eat different, because we then went and jumped from all these performance marketing channels, some offline channels, some performance marketing channels, which I haven't spoken about, which I'll let you know a bit more about now. And then we jumped to above the line branding, exposure. And people start to remember us and get to know us. And funny story is that when we did our first X Factor ad, we were all excited. And in those days I had a BlackBerry. My phone was pinging going, Ash, congratulations, you've done it. You've got the ad out. Oh, I can see it. And I was like, ping, 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 ping. And all of a sudden, my BlackBerry stopped for a bit. And ping, 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 ping. I was like, Ash, where's the website? Can't see the website.
It crashed.
Our website crashed. Our website crashed when we did our first TV campaign. Right? Which was crazy because we were all set up. We thought we were set up for it, right? The campaign, I had the guys who did the Nando's TV adverts. I worked with those guys, and we did this kind of concept called Belly and Brain. Belly and the Brain. Order takeaway the smart way was our strap line at that point. But what we realized very quickly was that we did the TV campaign. It was part of a schedule, and this was like a midweek. It wasn't the weekend where we did. So we were doing an early midweek type of session that we did. And what we realized was that people were coming to the website to check it out, but they weren't ordering takeaway, because most people don't order takeaway on a Wednesday or a Thursday. It's a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So we fixed our website, and that weekend we had the best orders ever. We flew out the roof. So we got lucky because we then very, very quickly learned that buying behavior for food is also based on days. And so we were like, oh, we didn't even think about that. Yeah. Obviously, most people order takeaway on Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, key events, certain triggers help you do order more takeaway, right? So anyhow, that was a big learning for us, and it was a big moment for me because TV campaign and website down, and
sometimes you have to be active, trip, fail to learn by experience. Yeah. Brilliant. So that was quite some time ago. How do you see marketing? How do you think it's changed over the years now, coming up to to today? What's the biggest shifts in marketing? If you were to do it all over again, what would you do differently this time round? If you're launching a business and you're trying to get it's near enough the same impact, being resourceful, you haven't got the money yet. What would you do different in today's day and age?
So I currently run a B2B software company that helps B2B sales teams understand how to improve their performance. And one of the most important things I realized running a B2B service, if you're running a service B2B, is to have a really niche and detailed ICP. ICP stands for Ideal Client Profile. You really got to know who your ICP is, because before you start thinking about advertising and marketing and getting people, you need to know who you're going after, and you need to be very niche on that. So who's your ideal client profile? I would always work on building that ideal persona, ideal client profile first, before I even think about any of the marketing channels. Because what happens right now is that when you're an SME or a small business or any business starting up, you jump to the channels first, but you need to go back to your ICP and who your audience is, because then you can start thinking about in a resourceful way, where are they? At Just Eat, I'll give you an example. Most of the people weren't searching, not that many people were searching for takeaways, ordering takeaway online at the time. They did eventually, but there wasn't much search volume. But what we did know was many of the people who ordered takeaway, and you probably had this at the time, when you opened your kitchen drawer, you had loads of takeaway flyers, right? And menus from all the takeaways. We're like, so those menus on people's houses, they're already there. They want to order takeaway. When they pull it out, they have a Chinese, Thai, Indian. So you have your regulars on the fridge. How can we get where those customers already have those? And then we came up with a plan. And this was one of our unfair advantages at the time of economies of scale. We had thousands of takeaways on Just Eat's website. So we came up with the idea of, why don't we approach all the takeaway owners, and the QSRs, we used to call them, quick service restaurants, and say, we'll do your menu printing for you at 2/3 of the price that you're already paying. As long as you put the Just Eat website address on the menu. And we JV'd with them, joint venture partner. We JV'd them, so we built them their own microsite that was on Just Eat, and they were willing to actually put their restaurant Indian.takeaway at Just Eat on the menu itself, and then those menus were distributed by themselves. Wow. So now we got inside the houses on the menus that they already used in a resourceful way. The takeaway is like, I'm saving loads of money, I'm printing all these menus. Win-win, right? And so there's ideas of how to get into where your customers already are at, for example. So going back to the ICP, understand your ICP, and then start to think about what channels or where that audience is, right? Where's that audience? Is it on social media? Does an influencer carry that influence with that type of audience? Because influencer outreach is now a big thing. Is it something that I can connect with the audience as an individual personal brand? Do I have a LinkedIn following on that? Have I built a community around that? That's where you start to think about your channels and start thinking about how you should look at optimizing your website, optimizing your go-to-market. Your go-to-market is kind of like contextual. It's different if you've got a mobile app. I mean, I'm sure there'll be some questions from the audience, which I can then go into a bit more detail based on the go-to-market. But it's very contextual. There's not one size fits all. And the challenge that you're going to face is that most of the marketing channels are noisy. PPC is very expensive. The CPA on Facebook is huge. Instagram is smashed out to pieces. Where do you go? How do you do it? Right? So that's where you have to start thinking more clever from a JV perspective, from angles, from channels which are untapped channels. I'll give you an example of an untapped channel that I found in one of my companies in Dubai. So when I forgot to mention it, but I had an on-demand laundry company in Dubai, which I sold. And whilst I was out in Dubai, I was sitting at a cafe, when I was sitting at lots of different cafes, and I was connecting to the Wi-Fi. And as I was connecting to the Wi-Fi, this splash screen came up. And this splash screen came up of a Wi-Fi company that supplies this Wi-Fi service to all the cafes. I was like, oh, every time I go to a cafe, there's always this splash screen that comes up. I was like, that's interesting. And Wash Plus, which was the name of my company, was an app at the time, and I wanted to drive downloads of the app. So I was like, how do I drive downloads of the app? You know, the app stores, you know, in the Middle East, the app store wasn't as busy as it is everywhere else. The cost per clicks were quite high. You know, Facebook was challenging with a cost per click CPA perspective. But then I looked at the splash screen and I was like, who's the owner of this company? I went to the owner of the company, emailed him and said, hey, I'm Ash, you know, let's have a chat. I'll use your, you know, Wi-Fi in all these different locations. I sat down with him and said, have you ever considered doing advertising on your splash screen? He's like, nah. I said, I'll tell you what, why don't we do a performance-based campaign? Why don't you put, as soon as they log into the Wi-Fi, the first thing they see is download, you want your laundry done on demand, download the app from Wash Plus. We'll do it on a pay-per-click basis. Good thing there was, our laundry service was only available in certain areas, so I could actually geolocate the coffee shops in the areas that we could service. That was an interesting way in, an untapped channel. It actually gave him the idea to create a whole advertising thing, and then boom, everyone else started advertising on it as well. But that's an example of something, right? Yeah. Where you have to be creative, smart, look at the opportunities. So it's all contextual when it comes to this type of stuff.
Genius, love it. Right, we're going to open up to the floor soon, but just before we do that, I just wanted to touch on the book. This book's a phenomenal book. It's been around for a few years now, actually, and there's a framework that you guys talk about in the book, the miles. If you just give a quick overview of each principle or each one, just to give some teasers, basically. Yeah,
sure. So to find your unfair advantage, you need to start to have self-awareness and introspection. The book never tells you what to do. It always tells you to build your own self-awareness. So it's not a book that says wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and I did this and I did that and therefore you should do it. There's no blueprint. It's your own blueprint. You got to make it yourself. There's a lot of bullshit out there of people trying to sell blueprints. It's your own journey. And that's what I try to do with the book, to say you have a unique unfair advantage yourself. So how do you do it? There's a framework in a book called the MILES framework. And MILES stands for the M, stands for money and capital. If you have money, brilliant. If you've got access to it, great. If you can raise it quickly, cool. If you haven't got any, think about becoming resourceful and creative like I did. Intelligence is the I, and insight. A lot of people think that you gotta have like high IQ and be the most intelligent person, but actually I like being in rooms where I'm the dumbest person because I learn the most. Otherwise I'm kind of like just telling them what to do. I want to learn from other people, right? So intelligence is one of them. But then we talk about, you mentioned I didn't go to university. There's other types of intelligence. Street smarts is actually an intelligence that people don't realize, right? I had street smarts, but I didn't know how to encapsulate it into the business world. And so that's why when I walked into a boardroom and the CEO was saying, I want a logo 15 seconds. And I'm like, that's a stupid idea. You know, they were like, whoa. Taken aback, like who's this 19-year-old kid telling me what to do, right? So intelligence and insight being very important, the unique insights that you have into your business. And there's lots of case studies in the book. Location and luck, you know, being at the right time at the right place. As you can probably tell from my accent, I'm from Birmingham originally. I moved to London. So if I was stayed in Birmingham, I would have probably not been where I am now. And then some luck. Luck is something that most people don't talk about, but I talk about it in the book. Every entrepreneur I've spoken to, at the end of everything, and at the end of everyone thinking they're a genius, they will say, I was just at the right place at the right time. It's like, oh, luck, right? So you make your luck though, that's a different thing, right? Education and expertise, having a good education, but also having expertise. Junior mentioned I built all these skills. I had expertise. I compounded my skills. I didn't have the education, but I had the expertise, right? And the final one is S, mild, S being status. Your network, who you know, and also your inner status, how you think about yourself. Because a lot of people discount themselves. Now, when I came to London and I saw all these flash cars everywhere, and I had really big imposter syndrome, right? Yeah, we all do, right? When we're a small company or a SME or a startup, or we're trying things out, we have a lot of imposter syndrome. But actually, the fact that we can be agile, the fact that we can be close to our clients, unlike any of our competitors, is a competitive advantage, right? We should lean into those rather than go back and go, oh no, yeah, my office is in Mayfair when you're working from home. Yeah, because we have this imposter syndrome, we think, oh yeah, they're not going to like us for that reason. Times change now. Times have changed. There used to be a time where status, that type of status used to make a difference. And it does for certain people. But it's how you play your cards and how you've been given your cards, right? And I think that's something which I started to learn very quickly.
Amazing. Love that. First, let's give that a big round of applause. All right. I feel like we've gone on like a 30-year business journey in like 20 minutes, okay? So much insight being whizzed around. So I want you guys to also ask some questions because this is also your conference. So we've got the mic here. So hands up if you've got any questions. Okay.
Hello, thank you very much for the talk and for the insights. You spoke about how you failed your A-levels. Okay, I'm sorry, that's a very negative way to start. But my question is, how did you develop the mental endurance to overcome failures?
How
did you develop the mental endurance to overcome failures?
The mental endurance to overcome failures. Interesting.
Thank you.
Most people fear the opinions of other people. And because I had lost and failed already, my family had kind of already given up on me and said, hey, don't worry, just do whatever you want. So the fact that they released me, my brother's got like a master's degree in first class in this, my sister's got degrees in theology and all that. I kind of got lucky that my parents said, don't worry about it, you're fine. Just go and do whatever you think is going to be good for you. So that unreleasing of that pressure from an Asian family was something which allowed me to want to fail more, because it's like, I failed enough. I failed my A-levels, game over for you. I can fail in it whatever I want. So whenever I tried something new, it's like, there you go, Ash with his new scheme again. And I was always trying and experimenting, and I didn't really care at the time what they thought, because they already thought I was a failure in that sense, right? And I had nothing to lose. I've gone into work where, people think I've got an MBA. I was sitting in front of them talking to me, where did you do your MBA? Mate, I didn't go to university, right? It's like, and so because I had no entitlement, I was willing to try anything. I'd photocopy, I'd make the tea, I'd do the event, I'd do whatever it takes to just learn. And because I had no entitlement, there was no sense of failure for me in that sense. And I think that it freed me from other people's opinions. And as we get older, as we have more things, we start to think more about other people's opinions. And what I realized is that they'll always say something, but you have to do you. You have to choose yourself. So whenever I fail, I always say, I'm choosing myself doing this. And I chose myself, and I use it as a massive learning opportunity for me. It's the idea of having a growth mindset, right? Learn from it. What can you take away from it? How can you then propagate it to other people and teach other people and tell other people about it? Because when you teach something that you've learned, you learned it twice, right? That's why I like coming here and talking to people to give advice and guidance, because I'm learning it as well at the same time, going, oh yeah, that was quite cool. I remember that last time. It reminds you, right? So having a growth mindset is easy to say until the shit hits the fan. Everyone talks about it, right?
It's so true. It's so true. Even as you was mentioning, I think I was also just as lucky because I was the last born. So all my siblings had already gone to university, been successful. So it's like, if he does anything, then that's just a bonus.
That's exactly what it was like. Yeah, if he does anything, it's a bonus.
Pressure off, which means that you have the opportunity to experiment, fail, and just be a bit more free, and not care about the opinions of other people, because there wasn't so much of a spotlight.
It was funny because even at the time, I spent hours in my parents' attic coding away, building this website, and I missed birthday parties and weddings and stuff, and I didn't go to some of the events because I was just such a geek, just programming, coding away. And when I turned 19, my sister gave me a birthday card that said future.com millionaire on it. They were taking the piss. Like, future, he thinks he's going to be a future.com millionaire, right? Anyhow, I put that card in my top window and I left it there. I used to look at it every day. Okay. Anyhow, 10 years later, my sister, when she found out about the IPO of Just Eat, she was the first one to call me and say, "Do you remember that card?"
Yeah. I love that. All right, have we got any other questions? Don't be shy. Questions? We've got one right at the front over here. Okay, we've got one, then we'll go to Dana.
Thank you again for the talk. I have one question which is probably a little bit cliche, but if you could go back to being 18, would you change anything?
Would I what, sorry?
If you could go back being 18 again, would you change anything?
Would I change anything? You see, most people regret things they didn't do rather than things they did do. And at the time of me doing things, and I did a lot of stupid things, it felt right for me. Because you can only make a decision at the time with the information that you have and in your circumstances that you think this is going to be right for you. The key thing is to make sure that you go with your intuition. I use a lot of my intuition in some of the things. You know, I'll go into a meeting sometimes. I'll be like, I don't like that person. I don't think it's not going to work. And then my co-founder will be like, "What do you mean, Ash? It sounds like a good idea. So something's not right." So I used a lot of my intuition. And I realized very quickly that when I went into the boardrooms and everywhere else, everyone wants to be rational. They want to use data. They want to use this. It's great to use data and be rational as well, but you've got to have the combination of using your intuition. So is there anything I'd want to change? I should have registered books.com and all the domain names that are available, because there were plenty of domain names available, right? Now you're trying to find a domain name and it's like, shit, can't find anything.
Making up words.
Making up words, right? Everything was available. Books.com, I could have had it. But yeah, I mean, the domain names were, the availability of domain names, certain things that you could get access to that you couldn't probably now is much more challenging. But I don't kind of regret anything, because at the time, in the moment, it felt right and is my intuition. And you know what? Deep down, you know, like I went back to Birmingham on the motorway, and this was just after the Just Eat IPO, and I drove up in my new car, and I went to Birmingham. I went to my dad's house, my parents' house, and my dad was like, "I only got 2 seats. Why is it so loud?" And I was like, "But why are you gonna have 3 cars for?" Well, I had 3 cars, stupid. I don't know why I had 3 cars, but I had 3 cars at the time. "Why are you gonna have 3 cars? What's the point of this?" And it was so negative. And one thing I realized is that coming out of Birmingham and moving was the best thing for me, because most people stay in their comfort zone, but I stepped outside my comfort zone and moved. I had no one here in London. I didn't know anything, right? Didn't know how to use a tube. It was like literally, I was in an Airbnb. I was in bed and breakfast. It was not Airbnb. It was like bed and breakfast in the first job I was at, because I was like, they had to put me up somewhere. I just took the job, they had to put me up somewhere. But anyhow, going back to the story of my dad, and then I walked into the house and I was like, why is my dad so weird about me? And because I've earned, you know, I worked hard for this and everything. And then he's like, oh, and then I went in and he gave me a hug and he goes, "You know what, I'm really proud of you. I'm really proud of you, because you made your money in a we call it halal, in a halal way, in a kosher way, in the good way, not in a wrong way, where people can make fast money very quickly in a wrong way, right? And they can cheat people and do other things." And then he gave me a hug and I go, "But Dad, why are you so upset?" He goes, "Yeah, because everyone's going to think you're a drug dealer now on the street." I was like, "Sorry, Dad, I can't win every way, can I?" Can't beat everyone, right? But you know, but that's kind of like the more important thing about, you know, like doing the right thing. like earning money in the honest, integral way, and being able to sleep at night for me is important, because it's so easy to cut corners when you're trying to survive. So easy to be when you're a small business, when you're starting out, it's so easy to do that. But I've always led with principles, and the principle has served me well, to be honest and integral, to say no when you want to say no to something if it doesn't work out for you. That's another learning that I've had. Just because it's a big client, it looks great, you don't have to take it. They can drain you heavy, right? You pick your clients. If you've chosen yourself already to do your own businesses, then you should pick your clients. But you want to get into the position of picking your clients, not being desperate to take anything, because that's what drags you down as a business manager. That's what I realized.
Oh. Let's get our last two questions. Who wants to squeeze in the last two questions? We've got, yes, Diana.
Thank you very much for your talk. Back in Canada, I work with Dan Martel. He sells $2 million a month, selling his print. Be like me, wake up at 4:30 in the morning, read, etc., etc. And he teaches that. I learned that, and I tried to copy it, and I couldn't. And but my business is in education. I value education because I love learning. I have curiosity. I love creativity. I love kids. And my business is a K-12 online school on entrepreneurship. So because you didn't go to school and he didn't go to school, so and the environment that I was in, it was like university is trash. Don't go to university. But I love being in a university. What would you suggest my message be for the kids that I'm going to train in that school?
In terms of if they should go to university or not?
Yeah.
Look, I mean, I've got.
Be mindful, we're at a university now.
Yeah.
And we won't do this again next year.
I actually think universities have got the biggest opportunity of their lifetime right now with AI. I think learning and universities have got the biggest opportunity to take advantage of the AI tools out there and integrate into the way, because right now education is scared of AI as it's cheating.
Yeah.
But you need to flip the script. Has anyone read the Mary Meeker's the AI white paper? She writes this white paper, it's like 230 pages long, Mary Meeker's OpenAI. And in there's a section about education, people in education. So you should have a look at that, Mary Meeker's AI report, I think it's called, you can just Google it. There's loads of good stuff in there about education. Look, education is important, right? Self-education is even more important. The problem with education is this: people go to an institution for 3 years and then they stop educating themselves. What you need to do is lifelong education. And the key of university is to be part of your lifelong education, whatever it is you want to do, right? It's a stepping stone towards it. You don't have to, you can skip it, you can jump into it, you can go through it. You're going to meet your potential co-founders at university. Do you know how many startups were founded at universities?
Yeah.
You know, how many people that you meet, your co-founders, right?
They're dropouts.
Yeah, they drop out eventually, but they meet there, right? Yeah, but they meet there, right? How many people get married at university, from university, right? They meet at university, right? So many people I know, right? It's an opportunity for you to free yourself, to have curiosity and make friendships and learn about yourself. It's not just about the education, because to be frank, you can go online and learn most things. But here you're in a community, you're in a place of learning, access to professors, academics, and I know a lot of universities like Greenwich and a lot of the other universities are doing a lot more integration with the industry now. And where else are you going to get that opportunity to meet people like me and stuff? You're not going to see that, right? It's because of this university that I'm here, you know? I was saying this earlier to Ginny, I was like, my wife was saying, you're going to go all the way to Greenwich? I go, yeah, because it's junior. A junior called, I will answer the call and say, I'll do it for you because we've got a relationship. He's got an unfair advantage. If someone else called me, I'll be like, oh, Greenwich is a bit far, I don't know, I'm on the other side of town, I don't know, do you see what I'm saying? So relationships are important, and you make those bonds and you get to learn yourself. You're a young adult, and I think sometimes what happens is that when you get into the world of work too quickly is that you lose that curiosity of childhood curiosity of learning and educating yourself. And university can inspire that. You've got to go at good universities, good professors, and I think that's really important. So I think it works hand in hand. I think it works hand in hand. But it depends on what you want to do. Some people are like, I just want to start a business, I want to start a business. And I'm like, no, finish your university degree. I'll actually say that to them. Or I'll be like, no, go and work somewhere else first before you start your own company. Yeah. Who do you think you are? Well, yeah, but this idea is going to, well, go and work somewhere else first and then understand what it takes to chase someone because they haven't paid your bloody invoice for 90 days. Then you'll know what it's like. It doesn't work like that, right? So I think that's really important to teach children. My daughter's 17 years old. And I've said to her, look, I've given her the choice. I said, do whatever you want. There's apprenticeships now. There's all sorts of ways of doing education now. It's not just through university. So look at all the channels, see what's right. I think university is right for her because she wants to do philosophy and psychology, right? You know, that's an interesting subject for her. She loves it. She's passionate about it. She's got all the books on it. If you're passionate about something, you love something, go and do it deeper. And university is one of the best places to do it. But if you're not passionate about anything, and then you end up doing a business course somewhere just because you want to do it, you might need to rethink.
Absolutely, that's a great point. And I think the evolution of universities now, it's not just the place for knowledge, it's also it should be the place for opportunities. Because like you said, you can get knowledge everywhere, but the opportunities to connect and meet, and that's why we do these type of conferences, and that's one of the most beautiful things that I've heard. So I'm glad that you touched on that point. Right, we've got time for one last final question. Does anyone have one last final question? If not, I have a question. Okay, great. I'm going to steal the question. Okay. So my question is a very easy one. Well, maybe. What does the future hold for Ash, and where can we connect with you?
Yeah, so since writing the book, it's been quite a roller coaster actually. I didn't think, I was seeing earlier that you guys did a visualization exercise, and I was saying to Junior, I love visualization exercises. Like, look, here's somebody who couldn't really write that well, ended up writing a book, winning Business Book of the Year, and becoming a bestseller, and the book's translated in multiple languages. So I was just this morning had an email saying they want to do it in Turkish. I was like, oh, okay. It's in Vietnamese, simple Chinese, Thai. It's in all the languages. I was like, wow, it's just going out everywhere. But if you want to connect with me, I am on LinkedIn. Easy to find there. I do most of my things on LinkedIn. I'm not really on Instagram or Facebook that much at all. But LinkedIn is the place. Just type in Ash Ali, you'll find me there. And what's the future hold? AI is really exciting. Yeah. If anyone's not thinking about AI and the usage of AI right now, you're going to miss a trick. When in 1997, everyone said to me, oh, what's this e-commerce internet thing? It reminds me of the same time now. Oh, what's this AI thing? It's the same thing. It's got that same feeling to me, right? There are things we need to think of, ethics and all these morals and all these other things, right? And how it's going to be used. But it's because it's moving so fast, I think you should consider and look at AI in your businesses. So for me, the future is, look, I've currently got a business right now. It's doing really well. I want to grow it to a point where I can free myself and come back into the world of speaking and do a lot more speaking. All the publishers are chasing us for a second book. I might write one. I've been pushing them back saying, nah, I don't really want to write one anymore. It takes forever to write a book. But coming back to the visualization, I want to end with this because I think visualization is really, really important. I remember the time when I said, I want to write a book, and everyone laughed at me. Every time I used to go abroad, at this time I had my business in Dubai, I used to travel to Dubai quite often. I used to go through the airport, and does everyone know those airport bookshops? I always hang out in there. And every time I went to the airport bookshop, whoever I was with a colleague, business colleague, family, friend, I used to be like, I'd love to have my book here one day. They were like, shut up, Ash. What are you talking about? I kind of had an idea for a book, but I didn't really have an idea. They're like, I think I want my book here one day. I think I got an idea in my head for it. And they kept laughing at me, and they kept saying, oh yeah, whatever. Then I stopped saying it to them. Because sometimes when you start saying stuff to people, they can kind of take you off track, right? So if you want to do something, just do it. Don't say it all the time. Just get on with it. The idea of affirmations. I'm going to do this, and then someone's going to no, you're going to be a handbook officer. Just do the damn thing. So I went to that bookstore. I used to close my eyes. I used to pick up other people's books. I used to open the book. I used to smell the pages. I used to feel the book. I used to tell my daughter, my book's going to be here. She's like, shut up. This laughed me off and go off onto the shops and start eating. And I was like, this is going to be my book. I used to feel it. I used to experience it. It was experiential for me. With visualization, it's not just about saying, and it was very specific. I want my book to be in the bookshop and this shelf at this place. Anyhow, 3 years later, I didn't know about this, but as we were writing the book and finishing off, we got 3 offers from the publisher, for a publishing deal. And one of them was called Profile, who we eventually picked. And when we went into the office, they sat down with us, and as we were signing the contract, they were like, oh yeah, and by the way, Ash, you know, we specialize in travel outlets. I was like, what are travel outlets? Is that the airport bookshop that I was talking about? It's like, yep. And when the book came out, it was in every single airport, every single train station, exactly the spot I wanted.
Love that. Love that. Have you guys been inspired?
Yes!
Listen, Ash, I can only thank you a million times. I know you're very, very busy, and really appreciate sharing your journey, sharing your life with the future entrepreneurs here. So let's give Ash another big round of applause.